Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Retail Show podcast for the Saudi Retail Show 2025. Here we will explore the latest trends and insights from the industry. Today we have with us Juli Lassow, retail sourcing consultant and founder of JHL Solutions. Thank you for joining us today. Please introduce yourself for the audience.
It is my great pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. As you shared, my name is Juli Lassow. I have had a career in retail. I've been consulting for the last 7 years, but I began my career at Target stores in the US. And I've always held merchandising or merchandising adjacent roles. Happy to share a little bit more about what those looked like, but they ranged from planning to buying to sourcing. And it's just been a fantastic experience. Target has a centralized buying and sourcing team based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but global partners everywhere. And that's always been a true delight as part of my retail career to work with partners all over the world.
Wow, it's amazing to see how your diverse experiences have shaped your approach. Moving on to a key aspect of retail operations, can you share some of your top strategies for successful retail negotiations?
Yeah. I'd be happy to. At Target, one of my roles, as I mentioned, in sourcing, meant working with global partners. And so I learned a lot about the idea of collaborative negotiations. And I would say that the top two strategies I would recommend is one, approach any negotiation with a great deal of curiosity. So you'll understand your position, but certainly confirm internally what your largest business strategies are, think through what your interests are, and then turn that focus to the partners that you've invited to the table to negotiate with you. Understand what their priorities are within, whether it's a seasonal set and you're bringing products to the floor, or it's a longer term negotiation. Help understand what those priorities are. And the second thing I would offer is really expanding the definition of value. So in negotiations, if you think of it just as one person's winning and another person's losing, or a group is winning and a group is losing, you are very narrow in your perspective. And so if you're just focusing on one thing like cost, for example, that can very quickly limit you and the impact that you can have in the negotiation. So I would use the information that you gathered through the question asking process to really think through what are the broader definitions of value. Perhaps you can improve the value of the product that you're being offered or that you're offering to your consumers. Or you can think through reliability. Something that we learned as we navigated COVID response is that incredibly reliable partners are important to being able to deliver on your commitments to your consumers. So the question asking and the expansion of value are the two things I'd offer when you're thinking about impactful negotiations within retail.
Yeah, those definitely seem like game changers. Speaking of strategies, what are the key elements of a successful owned brand or private label strategy?
Well, there are as many own brands and private labels as there are retailers. And in some cases, retailers will come to the table with a great deal of variety in their offerings. But what I think fantastic own brand and strategies and private labels all have in common are that they are grounded in a commitment that a retailer is making to their consumer. So I'm most versed certainly with US-based businesses, but a couple examples I would share. So Amazon, for example, this fall launched a new food private label. So their Savers label in very similar way to their Amazon Basics label. You can see that these products are all essentially equivalent to a national brand. They have the commitment that Amazon continues to hold very center to their consumer, is that they're always going to deliver their best from a pricing and value perspective. So these are very straightforward products, and you can feel reasonably confident that they'll have undergone the quality and the pricing evaluation and consideration that Amazon brings to the table more broadly when you're shopping with their businesses. If you look at other brands in the US, for example, like Trader Joe's or Sprouts Farmers Market, those brands are all going to be about discovery and have a strong undercurrent of wellness and health, especially at Sprouts Farmers Market, where the own brands themselves aren't going to be something that you could find on the shelves of a Walmart or a mass grocer. They're going to be unique to those businesses, and there'll be a reason why you come shop at a Trader Joe's or Sprouts Farmers Market, because you want to have this experience of food that's a little bit special, a little bit differentiated. Often, as I said, it's bringing a wellness component. So really it'll come down to a retailer understanding what are the commitments they want to make, or maybe there's a slight shift or a new commitment that they're looking to make, and why and how they can use this brand to deliver on that commitment to their consumers. We've seen in the US in businesses like department stores, for example, that just roll out own brands that aren't very compelling. And those are often brands that really struggle. Conversely, we've seen businesses that walk away from private label and just look at national brands, and their consumers are also frustrated by that because it was a commitment that they held. So Kohl's is an example of a department store, a mid-tier department store that walked away from their own brands. They saw their sales struggle, and now they're looking to reinvent and relaunch some of those own brands to continue to find a way to deepen their relationship with their consumer and hopefully get some more consumers coming back into their stores.
Yeah, it's clear that a strong brand promise is essential. Let's delve into another crucial area, which is how do you approach retail zero waste and circular economy strategies?
Mm-hmm. Zero waste and sustainability strategies broadly within the US are something that's being discussed, I think, on a few different levels. The US certainly does not lead in this space. Very candidly, you can look to partners in Europe and throughout the world that have much more aggressive commitments to sustainability, and whether that's through a governmental mandate or just a broader necessity or expectation from their consumers that you approach the business in a more comprehensive way. What I like about zero waste and circularity specifically in all types of business environments is that those principles are grounded in the idea of minimizing waste and not just becoming a little bit better or getting rid of little waste, but truly closing waste loops by thinking about what are the raw materials that we're using, what are the waste loops that we're closing, how are products used, and then ultimately what's the home for this product when you're done using it. So designing it out of a landfill essentially. So either that product gets reused and or upcycled or recycled or remanufactured in something that can be used effectively. What I love about circularity is that the business can design its own sustainability map, its own circular map. It's not one giant waste loop. It's a series of loops that close waste, but similar to the own brand strategy, it can deliver on a commitment you're making to your consumer and to your stakeholders. So not everyone's zero waste commitments are going to look and feel the same, and that's okay. It allows room for creativity and flexibility within the business. And if you're delivering on that commitment to the consumer that's at the ethos of what that business is all about, it's much more likely that you're going to gain internal buy-in and internal commitment to those strategies and have a more successful time in really delivering on that brand promise and that commitment to waste reduction as well.
It's fascinating to see how different approaches can lead to a more sustainable retail environment. On the topic of partnerships, how can retailers build stronger partnerships with their suppliers to drive better business results?
I think it comes back to expanding that definition of value, but a build I would offer on that is being more transparent with your strategic growth priorities. And I would fully recognize that not every retail partnership is going to look the same, nor should it. But for those partners that are absolutely essential for you in business growth, strategic growth, and delivering on the commitments that you've made to your consumer, those are the partners that you want to bring close in. Give them a view of where your strategies are going. And this is true across all different types of vendors. If it's your national brand vendors or your private label vendors, there's an element of your broader merchandising strategy, your promotional strategy, your digital strategy that's going to help those suppliers and manufacturer partners show up and be able to be stronger partners if you choose to be that transparent. And importantly, as you're sharing your strategies, your priorities, your growth plans, that's another opportunity for you to ask really thoughtful questions. Ask about what their strategic goals are. Ask about places where they see alignment in the retailer goals with the strategy and the goals that the suppliers are putting together. And there may be some opportunities for redirection or amplification, or there might be some challenges that get surfaced that need to be addressed before you can truly work towards those goals and deliver on them in a meaningful way. So I think that transparency, that openness and curiosity also helps really build a strong foundation between retailers and their partners. And again, this partnership and this conversation should look different depending on who the partners are. It's not to say that you're sharing everything with every supplier. Many retailers simply wouldn't have the time to do that. And to a certain extent, may not choose to be as transparent with some supplier partners who might also be working with their retail competitors, for example. But that openness and that strategic growth really positions you to be able to grow together in an impactful way and deliver the most amount of impact within your business and the supplier's business.
Yeah, transparency truly seems to be important for successful business relationships. Looking ahead to future trends, what trends do you see emerging in retail sourcing over the next few years?
I continue to see an importance based on sustainability, but I would take a step back and say even broader than that within supplier partnerships. It's all about a reliable but applicable supply chain. So again, coming out of COVID-19, we learned that the partnerships and the strategies that had a certain amount of give to them, a certain amount of flexibility, were the ones that were able to be more nimble and address challenges as they came up, instead of partnerships that were super rigid and all planned down, whether it was just-in-time inventory or not having a backup partner or a backup country of production. You started to see friction points, and you started to see those supply chain networks breaking, as opposed to being the flexible and resilient networks that they needed to be in order to adapt and adjust as retail opportunities came up and positive changes happened in the marketplace, but similarly when issues came up and they needed to be addressed proactively and very quickly in order to keep product being developed, produced, shipped, and ultimately enjoyed by the consumer.
Yeah, resiliency is definitely key in these changing times. For those considering a career in retail sourcing, what advice would you give to someone looking to start a career in retail sourcing?
Well, this question makes me smile because when I was in school, there were not the breadth of retail career opportunities or specific degrees and programs available. So for me, what I loved about retail was it was this really fantastic place to see how the psychology of money and the exchange of value came to life. We put together a really fantastic offering of the right product at the right price in the right place. You got to see what consumers did with that. So if that's something that is interesting to you, and I think most people are consumers at some level, but if it's something that's a passion for you and you're interested in it, there are a lot of different degrees that can help you map out a way to enter that retail world and have the impact that you'd like to have. It doesn't necessarily need to be in the store, but there are retail merchandising degrees. There are certainly an abundance of supply chain management degrees and broader business degrees. My degree was in economics and mathematics, and that positioned me well when I started my career in the inventory space. So data and analytics were something I worked a fair amount on. The other thing that I would offer within retails more broadly, if you enjoy the retail ecosystem and this is a work that would motivate and be motivating for you, also recognize that, as I've already touched on, retail is constantly undergoing change. So your mindset and the broader retail ecosystem mindset is all about navigating change and being motivated to address concerns, minimize challenges, fix mistakes, and also be on the cutting edge of how the latest and greatest technologies are coming to play. So whether that's artificial intelligence, which will continue to build in importance, but technology, analytics, will also just continue to be elevated. So there are certainly degrees where you're able to build some very technical skill sets that would come to the table and help you solve some of those really challenging problems. But recognize that this is not a career of smooth sailing, and it's not a solitary career either. So the other thing that I would offer is that when you're working to solve these problems and bring some of the greatest technology and technological advancements to the table, you'll be working in partnership with quite a few different teams. And even someone who's running a teeny tiny retail operation is rarely able to wear all hats. They're bringing in partners. But as you think about larger organizations, you are going to be a part of the solution, but it'll be incredibly important for you to understand, how do you work well with others? How can you have a fair amount of business empathy, ask questions, understand others' perspectives, so that when you're bringing solutions to the table, you're trying to work together to solve problems, you can do it in a very impactful way that solves not only your considerations, but takes into my considerations of some of those key partners you're working with. And that'll position you, in my perspective, to be well positioned to have a really fantastic impact within retail. And then you have an opportunity to grow. Certainly sourcing is a space that I love, but I've also taken the opportunity to be in some businesses that are, or roles that are adjacent to sourcing, whether that was merchandising or, as I mentioned earlier, inventory planning. So you do have some fluidity and a little bit of play in the career options that retail offers. And it's something I've certainly enjoyed in my career.
That's fantastic advice for anyone looking to break into the field. So I would, this would be the last question, and it's like a personal question. How do you stay motivated and continue to innovate in your work?
Oh, that's also a delightful question, a fun place to wrap up our conversation. I have always been a lifelong learner. So I enjoy solving problems, but often I have found that to solve a new and a challenging problem, I need either a new set of skills, I need new insights in order to be able to do that effectively. And I take inspiration from a whole host of conversations. So whether it's attending a retail show, an association show, where I can learn from thought leaders and other business leaders, and whether that's casual networking or if that's something being shared in a keynote, I think taking in information is absolutely fantastic. On a regular and more consistent basis, I found news aggregators that I think are incredibly insightful. So certainly global politics, broader macro trends are important to understand, but then also I subscribe to own brand and retail news aggregators and thought leaders in that space, because it's something that I'm passionate about. But if you're passionate in fashion, for example, you'll be able to narrow down and find insights and innovation based on the niche that you're looking for. I also touched on technological advancements. So I've been in retail for a couple of decades now, and I continue to be excited about the way that the retail ecosystem has continued to evolve and embrace technological advancements. I mentioned AI, and I think you're going to hear AI mentioned probably in every conversation when it comes to innovation and growth for some time to come. But data and analytics and insights provide so much more impact and usable information to help build more impactful strategies. And that's my passion, is to build the strategies, solve the problems that are challenging within retail. And I find that the way to do that in an innovative way is to stay curious and continue to partner broadly across this ecosystem, and then find new and different ways to either upskill myself or gain insights to market trends and technologies that are emerging.
It's really important to stay updated with the technologies today. Thank you so much, Julie, for sharing your insights with us today. It's been a pleasure having you on the Retail Show podcast. To our listeners, stay tuned for more episodes.